Alright, hi guys. So we're back. Hold on, let me fix my stool so I don't fall over. It's a little stool and I have a big ass. Alright. So we are back. I wanted my son to come on for one of the psychic energy talks so I could ask him some questions because we had talked about a little bit that I do believe that everyone has the ability to increase their psychic awareness and their abilities. But I do believe that that's different from someone who is born with it. So I figured it's been a really long time, like since I started my channel, I think, that I had talked about my beginning on this path and how I started on this path, which has to do with my youngest son, and this is Joey. And so I figured I'd do kind of a question and answer session a little bit with him because his ability is really what started us on this path. So I will tell you, I grew up Roman Catholic. Then when I was very involved in the Roman Catholic Church, and that had to do with my grandfather, who was very involved in the Roman Catholic Church. And I went to youth group all the time, and I, for a long time, kind of envisioned myself being a Catholic youth minister. Did you know that? That's what I thought I was going to do for a long time. I still have the books. I bought a whole series of books for Catholic youth ministers of ideas of stuff to do. Yep. So, and then when I got married, my husband Peter, he had grown up a Roman Catholic, but he had moved towards like a more evangelical Christianity, but not, I don't know how to describe it, not evangelical like you see the evangelicals today, like more Bible-based. He was very well read with the Bible, and he believes still, I think, pretty much, that the Bible has every answer you need, and the Bible is the correct thing, and if you go back to it and you study it enough, you will get the answers that you need. So then that's what I did. I started to study that, and we went through a couple different churches and all that. So when Joey was born, I was still Catholic not Catholic, Christian, because we were going to what's Dad's favorite pastor guy who would come over?
I wasn't alive.
The one who married us. You don't remember us talking about him? But anyways, so we were still Christian, and when Joey was born, he's the fourth of 4 boys. And he was the hardest all the way around, which I'll get back to the pregnancy part because that has to do with your stuff. So when he was about 2, I think, he started having night terrors, which is literally he would wake up in the middle of the night screaming and crying, and there was no consoling him, and it's almost like he wasn't there. He wasn't awake in the sense of where on this plane there was no consoling him. Whatever it was that was scaring him or upsetting him or whatever, there was no, you could not stop that. And so we went through a long time of that, and he was too young to talk, so he couldn't tell us what it was. And that happened for a couple years before he was able to start kind of talking about things and voicing some of the things that he was going through. And do you remember this part yet or not?
Yeah, I remember.
So oh yeah, it was in this house. That's true. Wow. I've been back and forth to this. This is my grandparents' old house, and they got this house in the 40s, and so we all have kind of lived here on and off. So do you want to tell when you started talking about who you were seeing?
I guess it was, I don't know, it would always start with this like red ball I would see, and it was really like a matte red, like a brighter red than this, but like matte, you know what I mean?
It wasn't
By
shiny.
matte. It wasn't shiny at all. It was like a ball. And after that, it would just start, and I could always feel this like sharp pain, like not like your foot's asleep, but like cuts, like tiny cuts, and it would always start on my fingertips.
Speak up a little because your dad is now mowing.
It would always start at my fingertips, and it would just kind of start slowly moving on my body, and I remember feeling the pain, and then this one old lady every time would come and just try and whisper stuff. Like, I couldn't even exactly make out what she was trying to say really. She just kept trying to say something to me. So at first it was like I was curious, but I was like, okay, what are you trying to say to me? And then I don't know, it never could be like understood. It was distorted every time.
So it was like you were straining to listen, but
I couldn't.
It was garbled.
It was garbled every time. And then it was just mortal fear. It was like a fear for my life every time. It was like I need to fight for my life. It's not a regular fear.
That's interesting. So I know we've talked a little bit about what spirits are out there, and it's funny, I don't know how to say this. Alright, so as far as I can tell and what I have been taught and what I know to be true, I do believe that your ancestors who have passed on can try to communicate with you in spirit. I do believe that we have some kind of, however you want to call it, spirit guides, angels, guardians that are specifically around you and watching over you and trying to help you. And then there are other spirits that were never people. And I, for the most part, believe that most of these spirits are not necessarily good or bad. They are like humans. We can be bad sometimes, we can be good sometimes, and you know, everything in between. And I think a lot of their frustration and what we feel as fear of the unknown is because they are frustrated because they're trying to communicate and not getting through. Now, I do believe that there are malevolent spirits. I just don't, I don't want people to be terrified of that all the time, because I don't believe that is a huge number. I think most of the spirits that you will interact with
just want to talk, honestly.
Just
haven't talked to somebody.
Have information to give, and they want somebody to interact with. They want some energy that will understand them, that they can interact with. And I always think it must be very frustrating. It's like living in a country where no one can see you and they speak a different language. So how frustrating that must be to be so alone all the time that you feel like there's just nobody there that will understand you. Really, Peter? I specifically said, are you going to come over here? He's awful close. Hopefully you can still hear us. So, you know, I want to make it clear that I do not think that there's a whole lot of malevolent spirit out there, but I do believe that that exists. And I think that the night terrors that started Joey's journey onto this was a malevolent kind of spirit. He really felt fear from that, and a big fight for your life kind of fear. And that kind of fear doesn't come from a, you know, a gray energy, a black and white. Kind of has both in it kind of energy. Please don't fly in the camera. We have to fly. Again, he couldn't really voice this, what he was saying. The first time that he voiced to me that he was seeing something, I don't even know if you knew that the person you were seeing was not alive. it always felt to me like you were like, duh, he's right here.
Oh, my brother?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally, like, for a while in school, I used to freak out my friends in school because I would just be, like, talking to someone, and I'm, like, looking at him, I'm like, that, right there. And then my teacher would be like, who are you talking to, honey?
So, the first time that I got a clue that that he was interacting with spirit is he started telling me his brother. He was talking to his brother. I think you were talking or something, and I was like, who are you talking to? And Joey kept saying, my brother. And so he has 3 older brothers. So of course I started down the list. What are you talking about? Frank? No, my other brother. Okay. PJ? Are you talking to PJ? No, my other brother. Okay. Dustin? Are you talking to Dustin? No, my other brother. I'm like, you don't have another brother. Who are you talking to? And I'm trying to remember what you said. Like the other brother, the one who isn't here, or the one who.
I don't remember that part specifically, honestly. That was like.
However, I know you were very young. However, he said it. I got the impression. Then it finally dawned on me what it was, which was he was like the other one, the one that didn't come here at first. And so it finally dawned on me when I was pregnant for Joey. He had a twin brother that I lost. So I miscarried pregnancy while I was pregnant for him. As a matter of fact, I didn't know that I was still pregnant for a couple weeks because, you know, we'd gone to the doctor and he said, okay, well, it looks like you're probably having a miscarriage, and when it's all done, come back and all that stuff. And to be honest with you, I try to explain this in a way so that people understand. It's not that it didn't bother me. You know, of course it bothered me and stuff, but I really felt like whatever was out there, this was what was supposed to happen. So it was a little bit of a letdown, but I did not go through a huge grieving period. I just kind of was like, okay, well, especially when I found out I was still pregnant, and they were like, oh, well, then it must have been another fetus, and so you still have one that's viable, and the pregnancy continued. So I never talked about that loss. Peter and I, neither one of us talked about having lost a child. We didn't tell anyone that we had miscarried. It just was something I didn't want to. The boys were all kind of young. I didn't want to put anybody through that unnecessarily. So we just didn't talk about it. It wasn't extremely upsetting to us. I just felt like that's what was supposed to happen, and okay, we moved on. And so I hadn't thought about that since he was born. I haven't thought about that. And so when he finally got to the point, I'm like, what do you mean your other brother? And it's just something clicked finally, and I thought, oh my gosh, he's talking about the brother that died, that did not come to fruition. And he's like, yeah, the other one. So I was totally at first freaked out. I was just like, okay, great. Well, what the hell do I do? So I started reading about spirits and entities and mediumship and that kind of thing, because then the more that we accepted that, the more Joey would come out with stuff like he would see my grandparents sometimes, and he would be like, oh yeah, there's somebody. I remember driving in a car and we'd stop at a stoplight and he'd be waving, and I'm like, what? Who are you waving at? You know, and he's like, that guy over there, he's waving, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay, great. But I'm glad that at least I was the kind of spiritual person that I felt like I was open to that, because I believed in that. I believed that that was something that was possible. And so, like I said, we just kind of started reading up on it, and we talked about shielding, which apparently is not something that Joey uses. So I will be talking about shielding, which you can use for yourself. If it works for you, it works, and if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work. But how do you feel like you got to the point where you didn't, because he feels like the night terrors were part of something trying to possess, an actual possession. So how do you feel like you stopped that? You were able to figure out how to stop that from happening?
Well, honestly, part of it was Frank. Frank was a huge help. But I remember one night specifically, Frank was just like, all right, at this point, you're 8 years old. It's been going on for like 5 years. We gotta do something about it. So I was like, all right, what do you want to do? And he basically, you know how you can, there's a way to astral walk with people?
Yes.
Well, there's also a specific way where I can bring him with me into a battle. And not necessarily him in being him, but him in spirit. And I just felt him with me. I don't know what it was. This one time, I just kind of felt him with me. And I just got the courage to, like, look at it in the face. And I was like, look, you don't scare me anymore. You got to get away from me. I'm not afraid of you.
So you feel like being able to, like, actually directly have a confrontational, you know, confrontation in front of the spirit and say, you know what, F you, dude.
Yeah.
I don't have to do this anymore. I'm not afraid. You need to back off. And that worked. And do they come back still? Do you feel like that at all?
I feel like sometimes I'll feel like something behind me, but every time now I just know
what to do already.
I'm just like, look, you know I'm not afraid of you.
Yeah.
Like at this point, how old? I've been dealing with this for too long. I already know what to do. You just gotta back off. You're messing with the wrong one here.
That makes sense. So I do want to have, as a matter of fact, that's on my list here of videos to do.
Quick, though,
yeah.
They don't just always go away when you do that. Like, it's not an immediate, oh, okay. Like, sometimes
all right then, fine.
Like, sometimes they just kind of stay around, and you gotta make it clear that I'm not gonna.
So is there anything that you found that helped that, like crystals or herbs or?
The sage specifically is super powerful.
So sage is really good.
Whenever, like, I feel like something's trying to attach itself to me a little bit, if I do sage, I almost pass out because of how powerful it feels on me. And I like.
So it really is a ward of shoo, back the hell off.
Yeah.
Which I can totally see, because the Native Americans use sage the same way. It is very much a protective herb that kind of creates its own barrier. Yes, I'm glad you like my smell. Please don't sting my boob.
Go away. You're endangered now. Go away.
I know, jeez. Did it go? No? Really? Come on.
I know things are supposed to be attracted to us,
I know. Well, and when we're talking about spirit, that's the other thing that happens is, at least to me, I usually get really hot. Thank goodness it's a cool day and I, you know, have short sleeves on and stuff. But whenever we're talking about spirit or dealing with spirit energy work, that energy really.
I get this chill. Like every
you
time
get a
I
chill?
get chills,
See, I get very warm.
My legs start shaking a lot. My legs start shaking. Like
that's funny. So keep in mind, like, what do I say? That if it works for you, it works. Same thing. If it affects you differently than someone else, that doesn't mean it's wrong. It affects you differently than it affects someone else. All of our vibrational energies are different, so it's not going to affect us the same, no matter what, because we're all very different energy-wise. So that it's interesting to me. One of the things I have on my list of videos to do is astral projection, shielding, herbs, tarot, astrology, numerology, past life, shadow work, third eye opening, crystal balls, all that kind of stuff too. But I definitely wanted to be able to talk with Joey and have him talk about his experiences, because it is a different experience from what people who are not born into it have. I know you still see, now, like I said, this is my grandparents' house. You still see my grandparents here, right?
Like, way too much. Like, in the most unopportune times. Like, I'll be back from going to the bathroom, turn the corner, and bam, right there.
So, oh, I know what I was going to ask you to talk about.
They're just always, like, super nice about it. Like, hey.
Hi. Just wanted to say. Great, so we have a truck that is now here who is going to make a whole ton of noise while I'm doing my video, of course. Okay, keep going. Is how you perceive spirit. Now, we talked about like different ways that people perceive spirit. Some people are clairvoyant, which they come in, they see things. Some people are clairaudient, clairsentient.
I rarely see them unless I'm like specifically connected to them. So like family members and stuff, it's a lot easier for me to see them. But like I can hear them really well. That's where it gets me, is I hear them a lot.
So your biggest sense is clairaudience then, or clair knowing. Sometimes I feel like you know without seeing anything, or you just know that this is. So what else? I almost did this video live because I wanted to get any questions from you in too, but Joey is not a person who loves to be on camera, so I had to kind of talk him into it. But so what else? I'm trying to remember what else I had. I should have wrote down questions, but you know, Mercury, oh by the way, Mercury in retrograde ends tomorrow. Thank goodness, because I've had enough of this. And if you didn't know, this weekend is a palindrome weekend, which means the dates starting on Friday was 08-17-18, and backwards that's 8-17-18, and then today is 8-18-18, and backwards is 8-18-18, and tomorrow is 8-19-18, and backwards it's 8-19-18. So everything is in balance, and Mercury is getting kicked right the hell out of fucking retrograde, thank God. And so it should be a good weekend for kind of releasing and making sure everything's in balance. So this is a good weekend for that kind of thing, just to make you aware. So we talked, shielding doesn't work for you at all. If you try to like picture a white energy shield around you and stuff, does nothing. You have a feather in your hair. Sign from the gods. There you go. That's hilarious. That's right. You gotta keep that. Shielding doesn't work for you. Really, just confrontation is what works for you.
Exactly. Yeah, I have to basically tell them, look, I'm not comfortable with you being here.
Oh, now like, if you want to, like, say you want to see spirit, is there something that always works for you? Like, is there, do you just meditate? Do you shut your eyes?
Usually helps, but it's also kind of a feeling out process. It's not quite, it's not what people think it's like. It's like it's kind of like if you're in the end of a tunnel and they're on like the other end of the tunnel, but like 50 miles away, but it's a tunnel still, so you can hear it. I basically project an echo out, and then even though they're like 50 miles away still, so it takes time for them to finally hear it to get to them. It doesn't immediately, it's not like an immediate call where if I press call, okay, now it's ringing.
They pick up the phone, yeah.
It's like I'm putting this out, and then I don't really get to decide when they come to me. If I want to see them, it's like they'll randomly come like 5 hours later for some reason. One will
like,
just
hey,
pop
I'm
up
done with that.
Hey.
Back off. You're too late. We're closed.
So, I mean, what helps, I mean, yeah, meditation. Honestly, if I just kind of calm, you can't, I don't really have anything in my mind where I'm thinking of it. I gotta just kind of
let everything go that is yours to create space for something else to happen. Oh, Ouija board. We were talking about the Ouija board, and I wanted you to tell, you had an experience with PJ, I think, right?
Yeah, PJ, because he super didn't believe in like the Ouija board.
So my son PJ I love him to death. He's the one I call my idiot son, who I love, but he is the one that is going to give me a heart attack someday. But he's always been very skeptical of everything. All of the pagan stuff that I do, very skeptical. The Christian stuff on the other side, very skeptical. He just doesn't really believe in that woo-woo stuff at all. So, PJ and you alone, the two of you?
It was me, PJ, Frank, and Dustin or Scott. I can't remember. Scott's just a friend of mine. It's
a person who was in North Carolina, I almost said Florida. A friend of theirs. And Frank is my oldest son, and he reminds me a lot of me, at least spiritually. He's very intuitive about stuff, and really, now we have somebody doing like a lawn blower. I can't stand it, so make sure you speak up, because this...
It kind of was just like a random thing. It was when we first got the Ouija board, really. It was in North Carolina, and we wanted to test it out, and PJ, of course, being PJ, was like, this is bull crap. Like, basically, we were doing it in the living room, and he wanted to watch TV, and we were like, no, we gotta turn all the electronics off, because me and Frank think it's possible for them to enter into electronics.
Through the electronics.
It's like kind of a gateway.
Yep. Remember we talked about the planchette being a doorway too, that you don't want to leave the planchette on there. So what he's saying is the electronics too can also act as a gateway, so you don't want to have any of that stuff on at the time.
PJ basically wanted to disprove us, so he was like, alright, I'm going to videotape you guys while you do this. So like 5 minutes goes by and we actually get someone and we're starting to ask him questions. Just random, like, normal questions. And PJ just randomly throws his phone in the couch and runs out of the room. And we're like, what the hell just happened? So we like say goodbye to him, we make sure he says goodbye, get the thing off, put it all back together, and go into our kitchen. You know how the room is right into the kitchen?
Yeah.
We go into our kitchen where PJ is, and he was like, you guys are messing. And I was like, what? We look at the video, and randomly in the video, it just goes static, and like starts going sporadically static, like you can't see anything, it just, and then that's when he just ended the video and like ran out.
And this is on a phone video, so this is not the old days where we, you know, TV went static once in a while and stuff. This was a smartphone. It was, we only lived in North Carolina, what, 5-6 years ago? So all of a sudden to have your phone video go static, that's a weird thing. There's something else going on there. So did he believe at that point?
No. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he did to himself, but he never like admits to stuff like that. Whenever we have like an experience, like he'd have been around for stuff that's happened to us, his brothers and stuff. Like me and Frank, almost every time we go on a car ride, some weird shit happens.
Yeah. They've had, we only have 2 minutes, but they've had experiences, and I've had a couple too. And especially when we lived in the southern tier. There's something about the southern tier, we've had lots of experiences. Our house was haunted, there was all kinds of stuff, but where you get in the car and you start driving somewhere that you've been to 1,000,000 times, and you turn the corner and it's like spirit has turned you around and placed you back at the beginning almost, or
that Horseheads trip was crazy. When me and Frank went out to go to a trip to Horseheads for GameStop, because it was like one of our brother things, we like every now and then go out to Horseheads. We've done it 1,000,000 times. So if you don't know where Horseheads is, there's one road out.
Yeah, it's not a lot of turns, it's just this.
And we kept trying to leave, and like 5 times going straight out, we saw the Welcome to Horsehead sign. And we were like, what the hell is happening?
So like someone did not want them to leave. And I've had it happen too, where I'm in the car and I'll turn the corner and I know where I'm supposed to be, and it's, nope, I'm almost at the beginning again. And I don't know what the hell happened, but spirit like picks you up and places you back at the beginning, and like, nope, you can't be there right now, so you're gonna be here instead. So, I hope that
stopping you from like dying or something. Like maybe if
Well,
I
see,
went a
to
little
me,
earlier, I died in a car crash.
Exactly. That's what I was just gonna say. To me, I feel like your guardians are going, oh no, there's a big accident there, and you're not gonna be involved in that. So here you go. Now you're back here. Good luck. And it will do that until that possibility is done. There's no longer a possibility that that could happen to you. So I hope you enjoyed this. We're gonna stop now, and I'll do a couple other videos definitely this weekend, probably at least one tonight. If you have any other questions, do you mind if they post questions, and then we'll maybe do one more session? And or if you want a live stream, he says he's up to it. So get your questions together. Let me know if that's something you want to do, and we'll try to do a live stream. I hope your weekend is going great. Balance, balance. It's all about balance. Blessings.